Kansas City Chiefs are coming to Dallas on Turkey Day. Mom and Dad, you're listening at home in Virginia Beach. We don't have to move the time because it's still going to be the second game of the day. The Lions will be, of course, the first day game to kick off Thanksgiving. The Cowboys will be in their same slot. But Jensen, I mean, we're getting Patrick Mahomes now on Christmas Day, and you're getting Patrick Mahomes on Thanksgiving.
I'm kind of sour on it. I mean, it's going to be huge because from a contest standpoint now, Dave, that's an unplayable game.
Yeah.
That Chiefs-Cowboys matchup is now unplayable for Circa Survivor because Thanksgiving is its own week. You can't do that. So you can't save the Cowboys or the Chiefs for Thanksgiving week.
So let's start with the NFC East here. The Philadelphia Eagles, your defending champion Philadelphia Eagles. If you go over, and like I said, we're going to give people shout-outs all night tonight because there's a lot of hard work going on out there breaking down all of this stuff. The guys over at Sharp Football do go in and rate the strength of schedules based off of future win totals as opposed to what happened the season prior. With that Philadelphia Eagles schedule, as you can imagine, you're going to get a tough go at it after you won it all. And so 1, 2, 3, the fourth hardest schedule, it looks like, Mike, here for this Philadelphia Eagles team. I get it. I understand why it's tough. That being said, you look here, and I mean, yeah, week one, Cowboys, you're feeling pretty great, I guess, about that. That being said, it is, on a neutral site, but boy, at Chiefs, Rams, who you and I think are going to be much better this week. Not that the Bucs are going to be world beaters, but his best team in that division. I like the Broncos a pretty good amount. 2, 3, 4, 5. Not a fun little stretch there for the Eagles team until they get that landing spot there with the Giants in week number 6. Could be interesting for this Philadelphia Eagles team. Maybe we're circling, like we said, week number 5 in the calendar. Worst case scenario, they come out of this 2 and 3 or something like that. I mean, I feel much better about backing them later on in the season.
Yeah, this is an interesting schedule. We knew it was going to be tough. Thank God that both the Cowboys and the Giants are in their division, because if they weren't, this would be a wildly difficult schedule. They get 4 games against those two teams, which is a nice to have those padded spots inside your schedule. I agree with you. That stretch from 2 to 5 is awfully tough. You got to remember the Chiefs are coming back from Brazil, so that at least is a little bit of a situation where you're getting some extra rest. You do have the mid-season bye, week 9, one of the more coveted byes, so that you do have it smack in the middle. You're able to get a little healthy before the run. I like that stretch from week 12 to week 15 for them. That's 4 games that are very winnable when you're at the Cowboys versus the Bears. The Chargers could be tough on Monday Night Football, but then you've got the Raiders. But when you look through the schedule, Matt, how does this season not come down to those last 3 games here for the Eagles? I mean, that's going to be the key part of their season. They're at the Commanders, who are expected to be the second best team in their division. And then they are at the Bills, and then they close at home against the Commanders. That final 3-game stretch is going to be pivotal for the Eagles' chances to be able to secure a bye and win the division. Yeah,
it's a pretty interesting deal, I guess, too, if we're really trying to kind of break down when you get some of these teams. Like you mentioned the end of schedule. I guess if you are going to get the Chiefs on the road, it's probably best to get them early. We saw last year this offense took a little bit of time to get going for this Chiefs team. Don't know if that's not going to be the case again this year with some of the new parts that have to kind of be worked into the system. So maybe you're catching the Chiefs on the road at basically the best time that you could do that. So maybe this isn't as bad as it would be if we were looking and say that stretch was week, let's call it 7 to 10 or something like that,
Yeah, I like playing the Chiefs in week 2. I like playing the Bills in week 17. If you're going to have to go to Buffalo in a cold weather game, that game might not matter for Buffalo. We'll get to their schedule eventually, but that division's they're going to run away with it this year based on what they have on their schedule and the rest of that division. So that might not be a very motivated Bills team come week 17 as well. So I think that the out-of-conference, really tough games for them do at least fall at advantageous times in the schedule.
It is a hefty win total there, though, Mike. It's an 11.5 win total there for this Philadelphia Eagles team. And this is not saying that this team is going to be bad by any stretch. I think it's still going to be one of the best teams in the NFL, but I'd be hard-pressed to take the over on to get them to 12. It's almost like they greatly like they just are the absolute best team. They're the nuts when it comes to everything, and maybe you just bet an alt over or something, but they're either going to underperform or overperform. I'm not betting the 12 here, that's for sure.
I would rather bet them to have the best record in the NFC than bet the over 11.5. right? Because I do think that you're going to have competitive divisions in the NFC North. I think you're going to have a competitive NFC West. I don't think the NFC South is going to produce your highest win total, and that leaves the NFC East, where if Washington or Philadelphia stumbles, which one is it? Well, it's Washington in my mind, which means that the Eagles have a legit shot to be able to run the table in the division. And if they do that, all of a sudden they're in play for that best record in the NFC, and you're getting a much better price than over the win total.
Let's get to the Dallas Cowboys, team that I'm going to try to fade every which way but loose. I don't think that this is, Dak to me was always obviously above average, Mike, but he was certainly not one of the better quarterbacks in the league. Now coming back off of a major injury with everything that's going on with them, this schedule doesn't look all that great for them either. You're looking at a team here that does have still one of the hardest schedules in the NFL. Eagles, Giants, Bears, Packers, Jets, Panthers to start the season. Is this not the most prime candidate fade team on the face of the planet after week number 6? I mean, they lose to the Eagles, right? Sure, they can beat the Giants. They probably can beat the Jets. They probably can beat the Panthers, and maybe you trip and fall, do something early on in the season against the Packers or something. Then it goes Commanders, Broncos. You're getting the Cardinals, who I know you like a little bit better this year as well. Eagles, Chiefs on Thanksgiving, at the Lions, Vikings, Chargers, Commanders, all to close things out. Yeah, you get the soft spot with the Giants at the end of the season. Can we not get an elevated win total on this team after week number 6 and come in and just pound the under like it's nobody's business?
Oh, I'm hoping, praying that they are 5-1 and I can go to miss the playoffs. I mean, that would be just the dream scenario here, because I do think that the Cardinals are going to be frisky. That's not going to be an easy game on the road. If you're picking a time to play the Vikings, you want to play them early in the season, not late in the season where the Cowboys have to face them, because you assume that J.J. McCarthy's figured some things out by then. This is just a very, very difficult schedule post week 7. So if we can somehow get the Cowboys at 5-1 or 4-2 through those first 6 weeks, it is a great opportunity to play against them for the remainder of the season, either win total or to miss the playoffs. That is your first calendar reminder, guys. Week 6 for the Cowboys. Check what that record is and see if that's not a team that you can bet against. We talked about the Commanders. They are tied with the Chiefs for the most standalone games over the course of the season. They're going to highlight this team, and I guess rightfully so, Mike. I mean, you and I like what they did in the offseason, liked what they did in the draft. Year number 2 with Jaden Daniels, and looks every bit the part as far as playing the quarterback position. So, I mean, I understand it. I get it. I understand why they're doing this and highlighting this team. Yeah, nothing really jumps out to me with the Commanders' schedule. I mean, the 9.5 sitting there with the win total, it's a team that won a lot of one-possession games last year, Matt, that was just running on the right side of variance. So it's hard for me to get really excited. But we do get second year of Jaden Daniels. I think that should help improve this offense. I do like some of the moves they made in the offseason as well. But I think this is a team that's lined pretty well on the win total, and that has, as like you said, a pretty flat schedule. There is not that set of 5 games where you're like, well, they're definitely going 5-0 or 0-5 in this specific set. So the Commanders are just going to be one of those teams you kind of pay attention to and see what you like during the season, but a hard team to really get involved with from a calendar invite perspective. I'm going to start with the Los Angeles Rams, and this is a team you and I have talked about here for the last month and a half. Like what they've done. Like that Stafford came back. He still performs at a high level when he's healthy. Got a good coach. Able to really get the maximization out of his players and all of that. I think this team is super, super interesting. They open up versus the Texans. We will see what this team is made of right out of the gate. Texans defense going to be really good. Yeah, I mean, 2 teams that I'm higher on than the market, and the Texans and the Los Angeles Rams face off in week 1. So that's when I will be definitely watching every single snap of at least once, if not 2 or 3 times during the week after it. Then this schedule does get a little bit easier if you go kind of through toward the back half of it. Like you've got Baltimore, you're at the Ravens week 6. Week 7, you're going to London, you're taking on the Jaguars. You get your bye week after that. So you're going to go directly from Baltimore over to London there. So you're going to get a little extra time to get acclimated toward the conditions or the time zone out there in London. But after the bye, there's a lot of winnable games on this schedule. You are loving this schedule. When this came out, if you're a Rams fan, like, you are absolutely loving this thing starting week 9. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's phenomenal. You do get the Rams in week 5, and that's a Thursday night football game, so you get them at home on short rest. I don't hate that spot for them. But as you mentioned, like, after the Ravens game in week 6, and this is going to be another week 6 calendar invite for me, I want to know what the price is on this Rams team to win the division, because I think they could rip off
Hell, maybe win the NFC.
In their last 11, in their last 11, they could go 9-2.
Yeah.
Like legitimately, like that's good of a record here after they get past that Ravens game. So this is going to be another team where I want to see what happens early, but I like them late quite a bit.
I mean, guys, for those of you listening on the radio, Saints. So let's start. We're starting week 9. Home Saints at 49ers. Again, I'm a little bit down on the 49ers. Maybe the 49ers will be as good as expected. But anyway, at 49ers. Seahawks, that's a coin flip for sure. We don't know what we're going to get with the Seahawks team. Bucks, same deal. Sure, they're the best team in the division, but that doesn't say much. Panthers, at Cardinals. If you're going to go on the road, good job, Panthers, Cardinals. Lions, okay, tough one there in 15, but then Seahawks, Falcons, Cardinals to close things out. I mean, probably dogs against the Lions, though not much because it's a home game, Mike. Like, you might be favored in all but at the 49ers and maybe short dogs to the Lions. Like, you might be favored in 80% of those games down the stretch.
Yeah, phenomenal late part of the schedule for them, especially after the bye here, where they can kind of reset after the London game. This is all systems go for this Rams team. Like if you were a fan of the Rams, this was as good as what you could have hoped for from a scheduling perspective, especially with even the Titans game in week 2 and the Colts in week 4. Even if you lose to the Texans and Eagles, you're still most likely sitting there 2-2 through 4 weeks. So a lot of positives here for the Rams schedule.
Okay, let's look at the Seahawks team. That I'm not going to say unhandicappable, Mike. I don't think that that's the case at all. But what I will say is, you obvious downgrade at the quarterback position, in my opinion. Geno Smith at least has a super high floor. We know what you get in all of that. How this is going to play out with the Darnold experiment, we don't really know. We have a 1-season sample size of good play. We have 1-season sample size of good play for a lot of different quarterbacks that never really put it together for a second year. So I don't have super high expectations, but am willing to change my opinion when I see it with my own eyes.
Well, the thing with the Darnold sample size, too, is with an elite offensive coach and 2 elite weapons on the outside. Now you have Jackson Smith and Jigba here, but Lockett's not what he was. You traded away DK Metcalf, so you don't have nearly as good a wide receiver unit. The offensive line is still a question mark for the Seattle Seahawks team. I think the defense is better second year under Mike McDonald, but a lot of question marks as to what this team is actually going to look like. We're seeing a ton of money on the under 8.5. That's already juiced down to -140 from a season-long win total. And you look at this schedule, and I mean, nothing jumps out at me as a very hard or very easy stretch. It just kind of feels like an even schedule. But when you have an even schedule and a team that you don't feel overly confident in, it's very hard to get to the window.
Yeah, it's a middling as far as like the win totals here on the teams that they're playing. We expect the Saints to be bad. We expect the Titans to be bad. So you get those on the schedule. That's got to feel pretty good. Don't really know exactly what we're going to get from the Steelers because we don't know who's going to be playing quarterback for them. So maybe that game is much more appealing there in week 2 that's on the road for them. Colts are another one of those teams, Mike, that's just super weird. We'll talk about them a little bit later. But, are they going to be good? Are they going to be bad? Whatever. I mean, so there are definitely winnable games here on the schedule for the Seahawks. But there are also some that if the Seahawks team is more middling than on the upper side of middling, then those games become like losable. At the Falcons becomes like, oh, that's not a good game anymore, right? At the Panthers maybe is not a good game anymore for them. Like, so I think that there are some of these where you look and go, okay, depending on how this team performs on the field, some of these games might not actually be, okay, circle those as wins.
Yeah, and you've got 2 times your back-to-back road games. Once in the middle of the season, you're at Rams, then at Titans. So you get at Titans in the second one, but that becomes a little trickier of a spot because it is the second game in a back-to-back road games. And you end the season at Panthers, at Niners. We don't know what to expect from that Panthers team by that point, but then having to go on the road in a division rival, a team that you've struggled against, not a great way to end your season here. Cardinals
is a team, though, that I think that we are a little bit higher on maybe than everybody else out there. You could come out of the gate hot here. You get Saints, Panthers, Niners, Seahawks, Titans, Colts, 1 through 6. You could run pure and be 6-0. You could just be good and be 5-1. Let's call it a loss at the 49ers right there. This is a super, super great opening to a season for an over on an 8.5 total.
Yeah, it really is. And this might be a team that you target over and then you come back with the in-season under because it does get difficult. Those last 6 weeks, you're at the Bucks versus the Rams, at the Texans versus the Falcons, at the Bengals, at the Rams. So 4 of the last 6 on the road and against teams that I think all have a legitimate shot at making the playoffs as well. So that end of the schedule here, much more difficult for the Cardinals. So this is one where if you like the over, I don't mind betting the over before the season starts. If you're sitting at 6-0 or 5-1, you come back in on the season under.
We do need to talk about the New York Football Giants. It just is a bummer whenever you look at the schedule. 2 road games to start things out, and then when you get a home game, it's against the Chiefs. What are you going to do? At the Commanders, at the Cowboys, you're starting 0-2 in the division, then you're heading, then you get the Chiefs, then you get the Chargers. Oh my.
This is as brutal as it can be, especially for an organization that wanted to try and get Jackson Dart involved early. When do you put Jackson Dart in, Matt? Do you wait till the bye in week 14? Are you going to roll with Russell Wilson that long? It is ridiculous when you look at this schedule. You mentioned the one winnable game that is in the early part of the season, that week 5 game at the Saints. I went on DraftKings during the break. I was looking to see if you could find a team to our last winless team alive. That market is not up yet. The Giants definitely should be a candidate there, because if they lose week 5, they could be 13-0 going into or 0-13 going into the bye if things go really bad. This is just
I don't want to be
brutal.
unfair, Mike, but seriously, point me out 6 wins on the schedule. It's at 5.5 right now. Point me out 6 wins on the schedule.
Even at Raiders. It's well, you're playing the Raiders. Yeah, but that's not even a win. At Saints, you're not even at home against the Saints. When you look at the home games, and you've got the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Eagles, the 49ers, the Packers, the Commanders, the Vikings, and the Cowboys, they might go winless at home.
All right, let's head to the NFC North. The Chicago Bears, a team in which you and I are pretty big fans of what they did in the offseason. Look, they knew what the problems were. They went in and addressed those problems, starting with the coach. But then they went in, got an offensive line. They did all kinds of things like that. I like what the Bears did, a team that I had more money fading last year than I've had on a team in quite some time. And, Mike, I might look to back them in a couple of different spots here, because there are some interesting quirks here in this schedule. Because Vikings, winnable game for sure. At the Lions, let's call that a loss. Cowboys, Raiders, you don't like to see that early season bye, but then you are coming off bye to a difficult game at the Commanders, so at least you have an extra week to prepare for that game. Then it's Saints. Then you got a couple of toughies there in Ravens and Bengals, but then Giants, you got the Vikings again. The Steelers, I think, are going to be way down. Browns, you get in week 15. You get the 49ers, who I'm not in love with. I think there's 9 wins on this schedule. I think they can get to 9 wins.
So you look at the home games for the Bears here, and it's Vikings. Like you said, first game of the year, I think that's when you want to catch the Vikings. That's very winnable. Versus the Cowboys, that's winnable. Versus the Saints, that should be a win. Versus the Giants, that should be a win. Versus the Steelers, that's winnable. Versus the Browns, that's very winnable. And then you end with Packers and Lions. Your two toughest road game or home games are divisional opponents late in the season when it's going to be snowing, and you get the Lions outdoors in the snow.
Exactly. So it's
this is a great schedule for the Bears.
I was going to say, maybe you steal a couple of road wins along the way, but this home schedule in which you should play better at home and have an advantage at home. Not only that, you're going to be favorites in most of these games.
They will, and I actually kind of like the early bye for the Bears. If I had to pick early or late, I would take early with a rookie head coach. You give him 4 weeks out there with live bullets, and then you're like, okay, let's go back. Let's hit the film room. Let's figure out what we need to adjust for the bulk of our schedules. I think this is a Bears team where, last year, both of us were alt-unders. Give me the over 8.5 on the Bears this year.